evident that all men are created equal.
Love is my decision. It's up to me to give up my heart. Love is my decision. No one else can tell me to start. Once I decide to change my mind, love will show me how. Love is my decision. It's my decision right here and now. It's up to me to stand on that bridge. Love is my decision. No one else can make me forgive. Once I decide to change my mind, love will show me how. Love is my decision. It's my decision right here and now. Love is my decision. It's up to me to dance down the road. Love is my decision. No one else can lighten my load. Once I decide to change my mind, love will show me how. Love is my decision. It's my decision right here and now. It's my decision right here and now. so grateful that this is the 5th year that our church is going to be in the MLK Day parade tomorrow. If you're part of the parade committee or have done anything around that, would you please stand and let us honor you for a moment? Anybody who's working on the parade, come on, man. So we're really grateful to Peggy is letting us use her trailer and her new truck. And we're gonna meet at Peggy's farm today. Just sitting, guys. Thank you. Yeah, we're gonna meet at Peggy's farm today at 1:30. It used to be the old dairy. It's at the east end of Tennessee Street. So if you go north on Pennsylvania and turn right on Tennessee, go all the way until you smell the horses. Just keep going. No, Peggy keeps it real clean out there. It'll be a lot of fun. So we're going to work on the float today, and we want you to hold us in your prayers because Rochelle and I will be on the back of the truck playing music tomorrow morning, and we haven't done this yet. So we have a generator, and we're going to see how this works. And tomorrow we're going to meet at Peggy's at 8 o'clock.
No,
we have to at 8 o'clock, so we're going to meet at Peggy's at 7:30. No later than 7:30. And even if you didn't help build the float today, you can get on it and ride with us tomorrow. So everybody is welcome. You can bring anybody that you want. I'm just very excited that we're out in Savannah at large, letting everybody know what we're about and what we stand for.
And they recognized us from last year.
And they recognized us at last year. We had a good float. It's going to be even better this year.
Couldn't they come find us at pre-parade?
Absolutely.
On
Broad Street.
Broad before
Yes, because the parade doesn't start until 10.
Yeah.
So you can still come downtown if you can find a parking spot. Yeah, and we're all going to ride together from the farm. But we're out in the community and we're letting people know what we stand for. And what do we stand for? Love. Unity. What's on joy? What's on the wall? That's what we say we stand for. Inclusivity. All of those things is what we stand for. And so we're going to let people know that once again tomorrow when we're out having a good time, all of us together. You know, when the civil rights movement was happening, the Vietnam War was going on, I was just a little kid. I didn't know anything that was going on. Like, I was 3 years old, 5 years old. And I was very isolated. I grew up on a gravel road in a 4-room concrete block little house I lived in until I was 12. My dad built us a new house. He built the whole house himself. It took him 6 years. 2-story house. I'm serious. He worked at a factory where they made fire hydrants, Mueller Company. He retired when he was like 55 or something because he worked there his whole life, except when he was in the Air Force for 3 years. And every day after work, he would go to the patch of land he bought and he would work on the house. And after 6 years, we all moved in it. But growing up, a little kid, we lived in this concrete block house. They have 4 rooms. We never saw snow until I was 12 years old because it didn't snow in Tennessee back then. And we didn't know, we were blissfully unaware of anything going on as little kids. I don't know what my parents knew, but we didn't know nothing. I mean, everybody didn't have access to the world's information in their hand every day. There weren't any cable news networks. We didn't even look at the television. We had one, but we didn't ever watch it. Me and my sister were too busy riding our pony. We had a pony. I had a pony. It was awesome. So every year is an education for me when MLK Day rolls around. I always try to do some reading and learn something a little more. But this morning, instead of trying to inspire you with everything I learned this year, I want to hear from you. I want to hear your stories. I want to hear your wisdom. I want to hear your experiences. So I've asked Freddie to run the mic. It's going to be just like on Oprah. And if you have anything that you would like to share with our community, you got a hand already over here. Just stand up and tell us your name and share your story.
My name is Anya. And what I wanted to share, I learned from one of my coworkers. He's African American. I just love him, and his heart and who he is. Anyway, what I learned from him, he wasn't trying to teach me. He taught me just by being who he is. One day I came to him. Sorry to get my heart. I came to him because I was really upset about an injustice that had happened at work with another coworker. Something that was, not right was said about me, and that really fired me up. And here I went on and on and on with him. And just his quick wisdom and just his way about the whole thing, kind of matter of fact, and later some other experiences I had helped me realize that some people have. I grew up expecting justice. Just kind of thinking that also because I grew up in this country and my skin is light, and expecting that that's the right thing. And I realized, from him, this moment of clarity that not everyone has had that luxury of expecting justice, and just his calm heart and his wisdom and his way of not letting injustice turn his heart bitter just was very powerful for me. So thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Lydia Rose Stone. I've been a member of this church since '89, and I love the message that we carry. I grew up in a multicultural family. My godfather was black, my mother was Mexican, my father was Scottish, and I grew up, my awareness came during the 60s. I mean, all our peacemakers were being assassinated. And my uncle, my godfather, we were going up to Yosemite, and they wouldn't let us in to the national park because my uncle was black, and I didn't know there was a difference. So my father, we all regrouped, and there were 3 cars, and my father led the procession. My uncle was in the second car, and my other aunt and uncle were in the last car, and my father paid for all of us. He says, we're paying for all of these cars to go in. It was the first time I had a cognitive understanding of what prejudice was. The first time I experienced it, I was 5 years old, and they arrested my mother for kidnapping me because I was blonde-haired and she had dark skin. So this has always been a reflective time for me to understand and know that this church is where I belong, because we don't recognize the differences in our color. We don't recognize the differences in religion or creed. We accept everyone, and I love everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia.
My name's Sally Roundtree Klein. I grew up here in Savannah. I'm 64 years old. So I was not a baby when some of these horrific events were happening. I was a teenager. And I can remember wondering if I could ever go to college because I was afraid I'd get shot by the National Guard, Kent State. Of course, I was in 5th grade when Kennedy was shot, so it was a very tumultuous time, as Lydia mentioned. There were 6 of us kids. My father was a train dispatcher. He grew up on a sharecropping farm in South Georgia. And he moved to Savannah when he was 15 and met my mother in high school and also saw his first toilet that year too. He'd never had or seen indoor plumbing. Daddy was a sharpshooter. He was a peace-loving man, but he won all kinds of awards for his riflery in high school in ROTC. So he knew how to handle a gun. He was a hunter early on. He quit doing that later. But he was a Christian and, as I said, a very peace-loving man. So in his job as a train dispatcher for what was then Seaboard Coastline Railroad, his office was down on what is now Martin Luther King, right on the corner where the interstate drops into the city. And Savannah, although it was recognized by Martin Luther King as one of the most peaceful cities and recognized for our comparative ease of integration, it was not all a smooth ride. And there were some riots and demonstrations downtown. Daddy worked 3 to 11 shift. Yakum and Yakum was burned to the ground, a major store down on what we knew as West Broad Street then. And so working 3 to 11, my mother was very concerned that Daddy was going to work because things were getting violent. Now, train dispatchers were all men. Women were not allowed to be train dispatchers. Black men were not allowed to be train dispatchers. They could work the trains, but not in the office. So it was all white men, and they were packing. They were going to work carrying guns because they were afraid. And they were really kind of angry with my father because he refused to bring a gun to the office. Not that he couldn't use it. So I used to stay up at 14. I would stay up late until he came home from work about 11:15 because then I got, my daddy time. We'd watch Johnny Carson together or something like that. But I remember he was telling me how his coworkers were really riding him hard because he wouldn't bring a gun to work. And he said something that struck me because my dad was a quiet man. He was not showy at all. He said, and I told them, I will not carry a gun against my brothers who are only asking for what we have. And that was so profound to me. I just admired my father so much for having the guts to say that. The next night, there were shots fired on MLK. A bullet came through the window of his office building. And that night he told me I heard it go right by my head, and it lodged in the wall right beside his chair where he was sitting. And I just thought, what a remarkable, courageous man he was to stand up for what he believed in. So I revered him, and just as you said, he wasn't trying to teach me, but he taught me by his actions, and I think that's the best teacher. I've always thought of everyone as my teacher, each one of you as my teacher. And I'm grateful for that. So I just wanted to share that. It was a scary time, but it was a good time.
Thank you, Savannah.
I prefer to sit down. I feel more comfortable. My name is Barbara. I think Martin Luther King, I remember when the day he was shot, like many people, and the sadness, and I lived in Harlem, and I do remember the riots, and it affected me. It just was a continuation of things. experienced was that the killing of Emmett Till in that photograph. And I was about 7 years old. I was like afraid to go to sleep at night because his mother, and I think she was very brave to do that, exposed the ugly side. And we didn't talk about race in my family. And I was never taught at the table. My father, you know, he never really referred to white people on the job or things like that. It just didn't come up. But it changed, I think, when my brother, you know, he was inspired by Malcolm X, which was a movement, and it spoke to his generation. But then in the 60s, I had cousins who lived in the South, and I remember my first experience of seeing a colored fountain. And I didn't understand what that was about, and white. Of course, it was natural to prefer the white fountain. It was clean, you know, so I drank from there. I don't say with absolute trust that I feel things are going to be different for my grandchild. I don't have that absoluteness. And I'm just being honest. But I think at the core, because of it's all going to be okay, even out of the worst. Something good will come, because I believe in the ultimate good. And why I like unity is because one thing Martin Luther King said, he said many, many wise things, was that the churches in America are the most segregated place. But not so in this particular place. And that's why I keep coming. So it's, you know, I think it's a good thing. We all have different experiences, but we know it can be better. And I think I'll stop right there.
Thank you, Barbara.
Happy King Day to everybody. First thing I want to share, studying the works of Martin Luther King, is that Martin Luther King once said, I'm paraphrasing, and when he was getting his PhD, is that to speak about Christianity without giving note to other world religions is like talking about the Atlantic Ocean without the mighty rivers that feed it, okay? So Martin Luther King was very aware, as some of you know, of the works of world religions, very respectful of world religions. And I think it's very interesting when we talk about us in unity. Thanks for everybody sharing. And when I think about these times, the reason why I say Happy King Day, because yes, when we reflect, some of these reflections can be very solemn, very, very kind of reflective, if you will. But I came up with the acronym for MLKJ a few years ago when I actually gave a talk on the subject, Marvelous Living Through Needing Justice, needing with a K. Because as Sally spoke, as you spoke, everybody in this movement, they gave shape and form to justice. Like those bakers who knead the dough and make great creations, or those clay makers, they get their hands dirty and sticky. And it took a lot of people to get their hands sticky, but we're moving forward, and I just want to share that. So let's keep getting our hands sticky and kneading and giving shape and form to justice, because we do it in unity, and I'm so thankful for all of you, and I love you all. Thank you.
Of course, good morning, everybody. There are lots of memories I have, but one that always comes to me, I was 6 years old and in first grade, and my family was a military family. We were in Charleston, South Carolina. And at that time, even though desegregation had begun for years, it was slow to get started. So as a first grader in Charleston, the school I was at, I was the only black kid in first grade. I didn't really think about it until I was made to think about it. And so I was always taught to be, to participate, and my hand would go up, or I had to answer, and I want to sit next to people to be friends. And they were like, why is she brown? Wow, I think her hand looks the same on the inside but the other side. So there was a lot of curiosity. My feelings were hurt because the teacher kind of treated me differently too, and nobody would play with me on the playground. So I was really sad. There were a couple of kids that came up, and I still appreciate that. I left Charleston, came back to Savannah, and finished first grade. And the school I was at was just beginning desegregation, and so it was the flip side. There was a white family, and there was a little boy who's the only little boy in the first grade. And I saw him get sort of what I got. And I didn't have words for it because I was only 6. But I remember the compassion. That I felt for him. And I remember thinking, boy, I've already got one job. I know what you feel like. But that compassion, that understanding that what you feel on one side, it can be felt on the other side also. And it's important. It's always remained an important lesson to me.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jen Morgan, and I grew up in Bryan County, and I remember when the schools were segregated. But when they started to come together, my parents told us that, okay, a lot of parents is not going to put their children forth to go to these schools. And she said, I want you to have great education. So we were the first 5 Black kids to be on the front line. And she told us, when you walk in these schools, you're going to have some people shouting obscenities. Don't worry about it. That's their ignorance. But the people who we went to school with was also the people that we also knew. And so it had a bittersweet. There was celebration at the same time, and the people we didn't know, it was negativity. But we went on anyway, and had a great time. And the next day, it was so much fun. It got better and better and better. So it was great to see the unity come forth. And that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Evelyn, and I remember growing up in Harlem, and my best friend being a gypsy. You don't see many gypsies around today, but they were gypsies. They lived in a storefront. I lived on the east side in Harlem, on 119th Street between Park and Lexington. And I went to PS 103. And Maria and I don't know if she was Hispanic. I don't know if she was white. I don't know if she was black. I don't know. But they were gypsies, and they lived in a storefront. And what I loved about them is that they had like drapes all around their houses, shingles all over the place. The beds were in the living room. I mean, the beds were all over the storefront. And her mother didn't mind if you jumped on the bed, and you know, you could. I mean, they were just carefree. Her mother did hand palm readings in the front, and they lived in the back. And Marie, I loved her. She was my best friend. And I can remember my cousin saying, you can't find anybody else to be friends with. And I don't know to this day what culture gypsies come from. But in those days, there were a lot of gypsies in Harlem. You know, they were gypsies, and they identified themselves as gypsies. They weren't black. Their skin wasn't black. Their skin wasn't white. They didn't speak Spanish. So I don't really know what they were. But they were, Maria was she was my best friend for years and years. And when I think about unity, I think about us all being from different cultures, different backgrounds. What I love about unity is the diversity. I think if I went to a Methodist church where everybody wore a hat with a little veil that came that little neck and white gloves, and you had to sit a certain way, and you had to do a certain thing, and I couldn't wait to get out of there. I am so happy to be in a church where some people wear jeans, some people wear boots, some people get dressed up, some people are black, some people are white, some people are Hispanic. I love diversity. That is truly the fruits of life. So that's what keeps me young. That's what keeps me alive. I will never get tied down to one way of thinking. Never will I ever allow myself to get tied down to one way of thinking. I want to learn from everybody I meet because God is in everybody I meet, and there's something for me to learn. So I thank each and every one of you for coming to Unity and being a part of Unity and being a part of my life. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. My name is James.
Good morning.
I don't have a story to tell, but this is my first time coming to this church. I'm actually in a Presbyterian church, which is on Victory Drive, one of the oldest churches in Savannah. But when I came in, I could just feel the love. I mean, I'm not making this up. I was telling my neighbor right there. I'm like, I just feel the love in this church. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to come back. Guaranteed.
Okay, I'm going to try to make it through this. I was raised in Jonesboro, Georgia. If anybody's ever read the book or seen this little film called Gone with the Wind, where was Tara? In Jonesboro, Georgia, Clayton County. I'm talking deep roots here, folks, south of Atlanta by about a 30-minute drive. My father had his own CPA firm, and every woman that worked there was a white woman. And on the day that Martin Luther King got shot, everybody, I was 7 years old, and second grade, and all I remember was the fear. Everybody thought the whole city was going to get burned down. Everybody was packing a gun, not my liberal Democratic mother or my pacifist father, but every woman, every white woman that came in that office that day had a gun in her purse, and they knew that the end was near. We were going to, the colored people, that's what we called them respectfully then, were going to rise up and burn Jonesboro like Atlanta had burned in the Civil War. Revenge. And all I remember was how grateful I am that my mother showed love too. She showed love. Every business in Jonesboro went on and about it. My parents closed the door of their business and put up a black wreath. They mourned Martin Luther King. And it was, I didn't like that time. It was so much hate, and I didn't understand it because a family worked with my family, and they worked in a domestic capacity. But people would say, "You work for Barberine?" And my mother would say, "No, nobody works for me. This family works with me." And her children, I was raised by Amy Ruth McClendon. Her children were my friends. And I remember sitting in my treehouse with her son, talking about it, you know, and talking about the N-word, and saying the N-word means a thief. You're not a thief. You're not a black person. And I would cry my eyes out when I saw on TV that they turned the fire hoses on the black people. And I saw a fire hose hit a black woman, and I would cry. My mother would have to comfort me. I I never thought I'd see that hate again. Did you? We went past that hate, didn't we? We passed it. And all of us here are hand in hand full of love for each other. We don't see a skin color. And yeah, this hate has risen back up. It's in our Oval Office. It's everywhere. I never thought I'd see it again. So here's my challenge to any of y'all. We gotta love harder. We gotta march harder. We gotta open our hearts harder. So be there tomorrow. Especially if you're white, be there with us tomorrow. Because we got to show more love to everybody. We got to counterbalance the hate that I saw when I was 7, when they turned that fire hose on a woman. No, we can't let it go. Get up tomorrow and come out.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Maria Watson. I'm actually visiting from Tampa, Florida. I am a member of Unity Temple of Truth Church. My parents actually, well, my mom actually was born and raised here in Savannah. And believe it or not, I've been a member of Unity for quite some time, and this is actually the first time I've been to this church. So I just like to say thank you for having this open forum and allowing people to think and talk about what is happening in our world and in our affairs right now. I like to consider myself a generational guardian. It is important to open up dialogue, and as a member of Unity, I find that we have the diversity within ourselves that we are able to talk about issues that are important. You know, it's too often, or not often enough, that we don't speak to one another. And I find that when we're here in Unity, we have this opportunity to dialogue. I look about us right here, right now. I see all ethnicities, all different ages, and I just love it. And I just want to say this is a wonderful time for us to see and think about who are we inviting to our table. It's not enough to just have this conversation here in this sacred place, but what are we taking outward into the world? What are we doing to make a difference? And that in myself is why I call myself a generational guardian, because each one does teach one. And I'd like to be a part of that float tomorrow. I'm still in town. So if I can come out and meet with you all.
Hey, good morning, good morning. My name is Timothy Baker. I'm originally from Monroe, Georgia, and I was actually invited to Unity. I've been here for maybe about 8 months now. And I was invited by Chidima, which was invited by Kevin, so it was like a chain reaction. So it was something that I never really experienced before. But I'm 28 years old, and I grew up in a kind of, I guess you said, a country town. My dad, he grew up in a time that was kind of rough for him when it came to racism. And also my grandmother was a sharecropper as well too. And but one thing they always taught me was unconditional love and compassion. So me growing up, I was extremely quiet. I saw a different side of it. So my generation was more about the mental awakening. And so my father and my grandmother, everyone, they went through those struggles physically as far as being out here and being looked upon or looking down upon because of the so-called skin color. And so with me growing up, it was more about mentality. And I was faced with a lot of stuff with me being in school as far as me not so-called being competent enough because of the skin color. And it upset me. I had a lot of anger issues growing up. And that's the main reason why I was involved in sports a lot, so I could be able to have an outlet and get rid of it. And I didn't really know how to control my emotions, but I used to always remember my grandmother always tell me that there is always a bigger picture to something, and you're in a generation right now that you have to figure out something for those people behind you. And so, you know, I never really understood racism, but, you know, the more that I grew up and the more that I learned, I understood that it was more, I looked at it more of a social construct, because we're all people. We all have roots from somewhere. We all come from some form of some nation. And so we wasn't calling each other black or white during those times. So why are we still doing that right now? You know, because we are human beings, we're not a skin color or a Crayola color pencil. And so, because we all are put here for a purpose, for a reason to do something. And so that's why I love this church, because it's so beautiful, because everyone comes together and we unify. And this is the beginning of something beautiful, even though we might not be able to see the whole picture right now. But, you know, as we continue to live, we continue to learn. Like everyone, like, you know, the old saying is say, I know nothing, like the wise man knows nothing. So we continue to push, we continue to learn, we continue to fight, but the fight is different in many different generations. And I'm honored to be able to have people here that are open to that. And so I'm just thankful.
So let's, if we could have one more person speak, we have time for about one more.
Oh, no, you got one.
I'm going to talk more about how I see it today, because I'm a teacher, and I'm from up north, and I didn't really see racism until I moved down here, because pretty much every place I lived was white. And then I saw the divide living down here. And so I talk with my students about race, and I'm like, tell it like it is, real person, and just have these conversations with black and white students about how the things that used to happen, you know, like water fountains for black people, and water fountains for white people, and the second and third graders are like, they have no idea about this. Like, you know, I'm glad that they're growing up in a world where they have no idea about this, but they're going to be facing other challenges. You know, the whole violence that's going on with police officers right now. And so I have these two students who I adore, Nicholas and Brandon. And these kids can play football. Nicholas has an arm. You know, he can throw a football, third grader, 50 feet already. And Brandon can catch that football when he throws it. And so their path is they're going to be football players. You know, and that's the only path that they think that they have. And, you know, they might do it and they might be great, but then, you know, as a teacher, and I love them, I'm worried about the whole concussion, you know. So I was talking with them one day about, you know, my fears for them, because they're such good football players. You know, I'm like, you know, but what if you know, get tackled and you get a concussion, and, you know, I don't want that to happen to you. I want you to have like a bigger, you know, opening for what you could be. And so I said to Nicholas, I said, you know, what if, like, you know, you go to college and you get your bachelor's and then you go on and you become a doctor and you're the, you know, trainer that trains on these athletes. You know, you're the athletic trainer. And I said to Brandon, what if, you know, you go to school and you become a doctor and you're the surgeon that repairs all the injuries, and literally Brandon's whole life changed. His face changed, his body changed, and both of them changed. And like, you know, already they have been oppressed. They do not see that they can make it that far. And in that moment, you know, I opened that door for them. And I've been calling them ever since then, you know, Dr. Duffy, Dr. Jackson. You know, and I just hope, you know, that, you know, being a teacher and, you know, holding these young children, you know, that, you know, my way of spreading the love and doing my part is to just try and give everyone more doors that they can walk through.
Thank you, so we have a really prosperous church here. Thank you, Freddie, for being willing to do that. Yeah, that's great. We have a lot of prosperous people in this church. I am a prosperous man. I can do pretty much whatever I want to. I was at Starbucks recently, and the young man next to me struck up a conversation. He says, "You look like a fun person." I said, "Well, Thank you. I am a fun person. And I was kind of thinking, and what do you want? After we got to talking, he told me that he was studying for his MDiv, Master's of Divinity, and that he was doing a class in sociology, and he was interviewing people at Starbucks, but because the music wasn't playing at Starbucks that day, no one wanted to talk to him. So I said, okay, you can interview me. So we got to talking, and I said, well, what are you going to do with your paper, your ordination, once you get? He says, well, I don't know. He said, I want to do something more than just do church. I want to see how I can be helpful in the world. And so, the words that we're looking at this year are renew and refresh. So I really love doing church. I really love being here with you guys on Sunday. And I think we need to take it outside. There's been a thing that they've said about unity for years. It's one of the world's best kept secrets. But it doesn't need to be. This needs to be out there. What we got going on in here needs to be out there. So we need to take it out there in whatever way that we can. So if you don't feel like you're a prosperous person, we have tools to help you with that. We're going to have classes. I'm looking at doing more classes this year than we've ever done before. Not just on spirituality, but we just had a class on finances that we're going to do again in a couple of months. We got the SEMA workshop. What to do before the first responders get there. I want to help empower you guys to be a force in the world and to take this love and this energy that we have and to share it with other people. And like the lady was saying, each one teach one. Whatever you got, pass it on to somebody else. Because that's how you keep it, is by giving it away to somebody else. So if you don't feel prosperous, if you don't feel empowered, if you don't feel like you got anything to share, we can help you with that. We have tools. Like you should have seen me 20 years ago. I was a mess, right? So God has empowered me through what I've learned at Unity. And so let's see how we can not only teach each other, but how we can take what we have into the community in just small ways. I love what Becky and her group came up with this Sunday about a clothing drive to get clothes for people that need to go do a job interview and maybe they don't have clothes. Well, let's give them some clothes. How simple is that? On the Super Bowl Sunday, just bring a can of food to church and $1 and leave it at the door as you go out. Every $1 can feed 5 people. I'm looking more on ways that we can get out in the community and be of service. And we have these different groups that are based on our strategic intentions. Josie is leading our spiritual depth group, and Betty, she's getting everybody fired up. If you want to know about that, come talk to me or her or Becky or one of us. Let's do something this year. So I've been reading this week something that I've never read before was the letter from the Birmingham jail that Dr. King wrote. So I wanted to just, we're kind of getting long this morning, or I would tell you more about this, but just look it up. It's on the internet. You can find out so much online. But this is the last paragraph of this letter that he wrote from jail, from Birmingham jail. And this was during the boycotts where he was encouraging people not to buy stuff from businesses that had whites-only signs up. And they wouldn't even give him paper to write on. So he just wrote it on the newspaper that he read the article in. And people would take it out and they put it together in this letter. And this is the last paragraph of the letter. I think it's just as timely today as it was when he wrote it, like 50 years ago. Let us all hope that the dark clouds of racial prejudice will soon pass away, and the deep fog of misunderstanding will be lifted from our fear-drenched communities, And in some not too distant tomorrow, the radiant stars of love and brotherhood, and I'll say sisterhood too, will shine over our great nation with all of their scintillating beauty. Amen. 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 So, thank you. Let's all take a breath. We did some big work here today, and I'm grateful to everybody who was willing to open their hearts and share.
Don't you miss this train at your